with those ice trays?
Oh, I'm watering the beans and peas and asparagus I planted.
What's that for?
Well, I'm raising my own frozen vegetables.
Frozen vegetables?
Mm-hmm. That way you get them nice and fresh. You don't know how long the store keeps them frozen.
Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, say, Harry and I finally have our vacation plans all made. We're driving to New York.
Really?
Uh-huh. We found this couple, Mr. and Mrs. Forbes. We advertised in the paper, and they're going along and share expenses.
Oh, what a wonderful trip. I wish we were going with you.
Oh, Gracie, Harry and I'd love that. You know, we'd much rather have you than the Forbeses. But there won't be room with 6 passengers and all that luggage.
Oh. Well, if there isn't room for you and Harry, I doubt if George and I will want to go with the Forbeses.
Wait a minute. If you really mean you'd like to go, we can cancel these other people.
Oh, we'd love to go if it isn't too late.
Well, of course not. I'll go phone the Forbeses right now.
Oh, good. Hello, Harry.
Hi.
What are you laughing at?
Looks like you're sprinkling plants in the ice tray.
I am. Why?
Oh, well, the next time I have something to say, I'll keep my mouth shut.
Oh, Harry.
Yeah?
George and I are going to drive to New York with the Mortons.
No.
Mhm.
Oh, wonderful.
We're going to share expenses.
Oh, gee, I'd love to join you.
Well, why don't you? There'll be enough expenses for all of us.
Yeah, no, what I meant was, Gracie, I can't get away just now.
Well, why don't you stay here and do it? And then we'll let you know later what you owe.
Well, yeah. Gosh, you know, I love New York. Don't you?
Oh, yes.
The tall buildings, the exciting tempo, the roar of the subways. Of course, they've torn down the 6th Avenue elevated trains, but I really miss them.
Well, that's natural. I even missed them before they tore them down.
That's what I mean, I guess.
Gracie, it's all set. Hello, Mr.
Mrs.
Bonson.
Morton, Gracie tells me you're going to New York.
Yeah.
Is it a pleasure trip?
Oh, no, we're taking our husbands.
That's very good.
Yeah. Oh, say, Gracie, when I canceled the Forbeses, they were just furious.
Oh, I was wondering what we were laughing at.
Well, I've got to rush off. I want to tell Harry the good news. Hope he thinks it's good news.
Say, let's go find George and tell him the good news,
yes.
too, huh?
Come on. Here he is.
Oh,
Hi,
George, have I got a thrill for you. What would you say if I told you that we had a chance to drive to New York with the Mortons?
We're not going, so don't bother telling me.
Oh. Well, let me put it another way. What would you say if I told you we are going?
Well, let me put it this way. We aren't going.
No?
N-O, no.
What would you say if I told...
No. N-O, no.
Well, Gracie, he certainly knows how to spell no.
Well, sure. And when he gets back from New York, maybe I can teach him to spell yes, too.
Wait a minute, I've got an idea. Why don't you tell George your doctor insists on this trip?
Do you think it'll work?
Certainly.
Okay. George!
Yeah?
The doctor's going with us on this trip. He insists on it.
Wouldn't it be a better idea if you went alone?
If it was a better idea, Harry Von Zell would have thought of it.
A 3,000-mile trip with Harry Morton at the wheel? I'd love to go, but I'm expecting a headache. Last month, he and I drove to Las Vegas. I didn't mind him driving with a hamburger in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. But when he said, George, hand me a knife, I want to peel an apple, I got a little nervous. See, I've got the season booked, and I'd like to finish it. Do you know that the only time he stopped eating was to look at the road map? We drove 400 miles out of our way before we realized that the red line we were following on the map was Ketchup. Way back from Las Vegas. I said, Harry, you better be careful. This is where we got on the wrong road the last time. And he says, don't worry, I know a shortcut. And he did. We got on the wrong road much faster. He loves to eat. But there's one thing he loves even more than that, and that's fishing. We stopped in one place. He insisted I fish with him. I'll bet he wasn't in the boat 5 minutes before he pulled in a 150-pounder. It was me. So then I wanted a bowl of soup. We stopped in a restaurant, and before I could pick up my spoon, he threw a line into my soup, and he was fishing again. This might be a surprise to you, but he caught a small halibut. Was a surprise to me, too. It was supposed to be chicken soup. But I'll say one thing for him. It's a pleasure to go into a restaurant with him. When the waiter brings the check, you never have to fight with Harry over who gets it, because he's never there. I finally got tired of it. And I said, Harry, how about splitting the check? He says, no, thanks, I couldn't touch it, I'm full. Well, I just said some pretty nasty things about Harry Morton. About him being a bad driver, a big eater, and a little on the cheap side, so I think it's only fair to tell you that it's true.
Oh, hello, dear.
All set to start off on our trip today?
Sure. Oh, by the way, Bill King called. Isn't he one of your gin rummy players?
No. That's William King, the big real estate operator. He's interested in a $200,000 piece of property that we have. But, well, I'll call him later and say he'll just have to wait until we get back to New York.
Oh. Well, incidentally, he said to call him at the gas station. They shut off his phone.
That Bill King.
Yeah, that Bill King, one of your gin rummy players. Harry Morton, why did I ever marry you?
Well, I'll just show you why you married me. Now, Blanche, you feel that electric current still running through you?
You know, Harry, I think the electric company did to you what the phone company did to Bill King.
Listen, Blanche, as long as we're going to New York, we can stop at that roadhouse just outside of Kansas City. Remember that wonderful $2 chicken dinner?
Yeah. Well, as I recall, they had a wonderful steak dinner for $5.
Well, that's a little steep for us, Blanche. And I don't think the Forbeses can afford that either.
Oh, I've been meaning to tell you. The Forbeses aren't going with us. The Burnses are.
The Burnses?
Mm-hmm, they're going to share expenses.
The Burnses share expenses? Well, you know what a big show-off that George is. He'll pick up every check. He won't let me grab one of them. Oh, Blanche, you're a doll.
Yeah, and then we can have the steak dinners. Say, listen, as long as we're driving through Illinois, why don't we stop and visit my brother?
Sure. Sure, if it isn't visiting day, he can wave at us through the bars.
You know, Harry, between your jokes and George's singing, this trip ought to be a ball.
Just passing by.
Well, there's Carmen Lombardo now.
Hey, George, come on in here.
Okay, Harry.
George, I got wonderful news
Wait a
for
minute,
you.
Harry. Gracie just told me that the four of us are going to New York, and I told her nothing doing. So you better count us out. Now, what's your wonderful news?
Well, what is the news, Blanche?
We're back to the chicken dinners.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Look, George, you're making a terrible mistake. This will be a wonderful trip. We'll get up early every morning, do a little hunting, do a little fishing. We may even sleep out of doors.
You know, Harry, when you put it that way, there's only one thing I can say. You know what it is.
No.
That's it.
Yeah, Forbes.
Hey, wait a minute. It gives me an idea. Why don't you tell George that your heart is set on going to New York, so you plan to make the trip with the Forbeses? And he'll say, well, who are the Forbeses? And you can say they're two strangers. And he'll say, well, as long as we're going, why go with strangers? Let's go with the Mortons.
That's a wonderful idea.
Of course, and it'll... Here he comes.
But roses fade away. Hey, hello.
Hi, George.
What are you talking about?
George, my heart is set on going to New York, so we're going with the Forbeses.
That's a wonderful idea. When do we start?
Harry, maybe you should have explained it to him, too.
Oh, pardon me. Oh, I'll be in the den.
George, are you sure you want to go with the Forbeses?
I'll go up and pack.
Oh, no, wait. Come back. I want to tell you about them.
All right.
Now, You're gonna love the Forbeses. Then you and Jessie will get to be great friends.
Jessie. Is that the husband or the wife?
They're St. Bernard and he is married.
What? I like dogs.
Yeah. Well, then you'll like Jessie. Of course, he's a very ferocious dog. And he hates strangers.
Well, just so the Forbeses are nice.
Oh, you don't have to worry because they're taking along a bulldog to watch Jessie. Yes.
Well, then there's nothing to worry about.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, the bulldog is ferocious too.
Good, good. It'll be a nice little trip.
And the bulldog's got fleas.
Fleas? Fine.
And the fleas are ferocious.
Look, Gracie, we're not going to New York with the Mortons.
Oh? Well, then I better tell you the truth.
That's what I've been waiting for.
Well, when we drive to New York, we'll have to drive at night because Mrs. Forbes is wanted by the police.
Okay, Gracie. Changed my mind. We're going to New York with the Mortons.
Oh, Harry Von Zell said you'd do it. Oh, Harry!
Oh, come in. There they are now.
Hello, we're the Forbeses.
Wow. This is Harry and this is Blanche Morton.
Well, pleased to meet you.
I'm sure this is going to be a delightful trip.
I simply don't understand. First the trip is on, then it's off, and then it's on again.
Well, you see, my husband has a bad back, and it goes out on him once in a while. And this morning it did, and he didn't think he could make the trip, but he's fine now.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Say, Harry.
What do you want?
Harry, Gracie and I have changed our minds again. We're going to New York with you. So let us know when you're packed, huh?
You're not going to make the trip with them, are you?
Well, of course not. Oh, my back. Yeah. It's that old football injury, Blanche. Why'd I ever play that game? Why didn't I play dominoes? Oh, my back.
That's all right, Mr. Morton. I understand. I'm sorry your back's gone out on you again.
Sure.
Please do admit.
Oh, my back!
Have a nice trip with your neighbor. Come on, dear. Let's go.
Really did go out this time, Blanche.
What a day this has been.
Come on, dear. We'll get a cab on Sunset.
What a horrible man. What an awful liar.
No, he isn't. The cabs do run on Sunset.
This whole dog must be Daffy.
No, this is Maple. If there's a street named Daffy, it must be in some other part of town.
Lady, my wife didn't mean me. She meant Mr. Morton there. We were supposed to have gone on a trip to New York with them.
Oh, you must be the Forbeses.
Yes, that's right.
Well, look, we're leaving tonight for 2 weeks. So while we're gone, why don't you use our swimming pool? Just go in the back way and have fun.
Well, that's very kind of you.
You'll find the dressing room back there to get into your swimsuit.
Will I need a key to get in?
Well, I don't think so. If your suit's like George's, all you'll have to do is unzip it.
I'm in no mood to talk to Mrs. Burns today.
Hello, Mr. Beasley.
Hello, Mrs. Burns. I just put some mail in your box.
Oh, good. Oh, by the way, don't bother getting us any more mail after today. We're going to New York for 2 weeks.
Oh, well, I better make a note of that. Mrs. Burns, do you know what your address will be while you're in New York?
Well, of course. Oh, shame on you, Mr. Beasley.
Well, what is it?
It's the same as when we're here. 312 Maple Drive.
No, Mrs. Burns, I
By
don't
the way,
need...
Mr. Beasley, do you know where Daffy Street is?
No, but I'll be going there shortly.
Oh?
Mrs. Burns, don't you want your mail forwarded to New York?
Oh, no, don't bother to do that. Why don't you open all our mail and read it, and then write me a note and tell me what's in it?
No, you see, we can't open mail. There are regulations. If the inspector ever... I'll read it and write you every day.
Thank you. Oh, yes, Mr. Beasley. While we're gone, why don't you use the swimming pool?
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Burns, but I really don't swim much.
Well, naturally, you don't when you're working. You get the mail wet. I mean on your day off.
Well, it's very kind of you. It's very...
And bring your wife over. The dressing rooms are out there where you can get into your swimsuits.
Well, we might come over at that. Will I need a key to get in?
Oh, no. Use a zipper like Mr. Forbes. Oh, Mr. Beasley, just one more thing. If a letter comes from my Aunt Clara, write her a note and tell her we're happy she's got her husband sobered up and home.
Tell her you... But how will you know he is?
Well, he has to be. Otherwise, Aunt Clara would be so busy hunting for him, she wouldn't have time to write.
Yes. Well, I must be going, and I hope it's a nice trip.
Oh, so do I. Where are you going?
Goodbye, Mrs. Burns.
Bye.
Harry, I won't see you for a couple of weeks. I'm going to New York.
Oh, yeah. Well, bon voyage.
George, is that you sneezing?
No, that was Harry Von Zell. I don't know why I'm making that trip with Harry Morton.
Well, George, look, if you don't want to go...
I really don't want to go. I wish I could stay.
Oh, George, shame on you telling me you're not sneezing.
Wasn't me.
No,
Oh, George, now you've given it to Harry. Instead of going to New York, you're going right up to bed and take care of that cold.
That's what I'm going to do. Take care of the cold. I'm not going to New York. Bye, Harry, and thanks.
You're welcome.
I'm going down to the drugstore and get you some medicine.
Yeah, you better do that.
But you know, when my Uncle Harvey gets cold, he just drinks for about 5 or 6 weeks.
Well, that's a nice way to cure it.
No, but it isn't. Then he has to join Alcoholics Anonymous to cure himself of the cure.
Harry.
Oh, hi, George. About time you got here. I'm loading up. Where's your luggage?
I've got some bad news again. Gracie and I can't go to New York with you. I got a little cold, and we're going to spend 2 weeks in Palm Springs.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's all right, George.
Oh?
No hard feelings.
Well.
Gotta be careful of that cold, though.
Yeah.
We'll miss you. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Harry.
George,
Yeah?
come on down. I'm back from the drugstore with the medicine for your cold.
Okay.
Here you are.
Thanks.
Say, you know that Mr. Duffy that works at Schwab's? Well, he studied to be a pharmacist.
Well, what about it?
Well, it just shows you how funny life is. Mr. Duffy studied to be a pharmacist, and there he is running a drugstore.
Well, I know a fellow who studied to be an architect. What do you think he's doing?
What?
Designing buildings.
Well, that's Hollywood for you. It's a scream, isn't it?
It's
Well, anyway, Mr. Duffy had to go to the back room.
Mr. Duffy, that's the fat fellow that works there.
Well, yeah. Well, I wouldn't say he's fat.
Only weighs 350 pounds.
I know, but you must remember he's almost 5 feet tall.
Yeah, well, that does make a difference.
Well, anyway, he had to go in the back room, so I waited on a customer. This fella came in and he said, will you give me a bottle of tonic for my falling hair? So I said, I wouldn't even give you a package of gum for it.
Yeah, well, that was telling him.
Well, sure, I know my way around a drugsther, you know. He wasn't talking to any pharmacist,
yes.
no.
Well, I think I'll go up and take the medicine. It says, mix with half a glass of water and drink after a hot bath.
Well, George, I think after drinking a hot bath, you may not have room for the medicine.
I'll drink it slow.
George,
Yeah?
come on down. Your breakfast is out on the patio.
Good morning, Dad.
Good morning.
Well, what a pleasure. By now, the Mortons are a few hundred miles from here. After breakfast, I'm going to take a little swim in the pool. It's going to be nice and quiet for 2 weeks.
Good. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Forbes.
Yes, we took advantage of your invitation.
But we certainly didn't expect to find breakfast waiting.
Well, I'm on a diet. I hope it's enough for you.
Well, I'll go get you some breakfast, dear.
All right.
Oh, and while I'm gone, show Mr. Forbes how you put on a bathing suit without a key.
Oh, yeah. Well, what do you think of our place? Like our pool?
It's nice. But personally, Millie and I prefer salt water.
Anything for my guests.
Hello, Mr. Burns.
Oh, hello, Mr. Beasley.
Mrs. Burns invited me to spend 2 weeks here.
Oh, well, that's nice. These are the Forbeses, Mr. Beasley.
Hello, Mr. Beasley.
Oh,
Oh, hello, Mrs. Burns. My, what a lovely pool.
Here's your breakfast.
Oh, thanks.
I'll be right back.
My, this food looks delicious. Would you care to help me?
Oh, I'd love it.
Here, hold the horse.
Come on, Blanche. The Burnses must be in Palm Springs by now. We'll have the pool all to ourselves. What happened to Palm Springs?
Same thing that happened in New York.
Oh, Harry, hello, Blanche.
Hi, Gracie.
Say, that looks like just what the doctor ordered. Thanks, Gracie. Excuse me, George.
I'll be right back.
Never mind, I'll get it myself.
Say, you know, Blanche, you had a wonderful idea. If we hadn't decided to take this trip to New York, we wouldn't be here now to meet all these nice people.
Mrs. Burns.
Oh, hello. Mr. Duffy, everybody.
Hello, folks. How are you? My, this looks like fun. I haven't been in pool in a long while.
Yeah.
You must be Mr. Duffy.
Yeah, how'd you know?
I used to do a mind reading act in vaudeville.
Well, sit down and have your breakfast.
Well, thank you.
All right. I'll be back.
All right. Now, is there anything else I could get you? Would you like some soft drinks?
Any dessert?
Oh, yes, I have them coffee.
Well, all that was left in the kitchen was a piece of toast and some water that nobody wanted. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't enjoy a good vacation at home. There's a lot of people back there doing it. Okay. Isn't this a sad ending?
Appearing on tonight's show were Rolf Sedan as Mr. Beasley, Kay Wiley as Mrs. Forbes, Clarence Strait as Mr. Forbes, and Dick Elliott as Mr. Duffy.